Well, welcome, Angie. It's really great to have you here. Thank you so much for being willing to come talk with me, talk with a bunch of people on the internet about your parents' breakup. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for asking me.
Yeah, you're welcome. So Angie and I have known each other. We were just talking for 20 years or so. We worked together for a bit, but also kind of have lots of mutual friends. Haven't really talked about our parents' breakup. Um, it doesn't really come up during life. So I'm actually really curious to hear your story and what your experience has been like. I hope that it's
Yeah.
enjoyable for you and just talking and telling your story. And as you'll know, Angie, and if you're watching this, I did a webinar called How to Talk with a Friend About Your Parents' Breakup. I know quite a few friends from divorced families, but we've rarely sat down and talked about our parents' breakup. For whatever reason, it didn't really seem like relevant or it just felt awkward. And yet, what I've noticed is that when I have been able to talk with a friend who's also from divorced family about my experience and then hear them, it's actually, I found it quite, it's a relief and it feels good and it feels maybe sad, some things, but quite a place to connect. That's why I made this webinar because I thought if I can kind of give people some suggestions might help them. So we're going to work through these questions and of course we might go off script, which is wonderful because we'll just see where the conversation goes. Where did you grow up? And maybe a little bit about your family. Do you have siblings or whatever? And then the first question that we get to is how old were you when the breakup happened?
Yeah, I feel like you were mentioning about just talking with friends about it. And I just want to mention that, um, yeah, when I have talked with friends about, my parents getting divorced and if they also had the same, like a similar experience, then it was kind of this connection, like you weren't in it alone. Sometimes you just feel like, oh, it's just me and I'm the only one feeling this way. And then when another person shares, you're like, oh, wow, it wasn't just me.
Mhm.
And then there's like a deeper friendship in that you have that connection. Anyways, about my family, grew up in Michigan and mom, dad, a brother who's a couple of years younger than me, rural suburban America. It
Okay.
seemed like we were like the nuclear family
Mhm.
growing up. As a teenager, I was the independent firstborn. So as soon as I became a teenager, I wanted to go hang out with my friends all the time and be with them and like, oh, family, like, ew, mom, dad, ew, I don't want to hang out
Yeah.
with them. I was hanging out with my friends more often. And turning 16, I got my first job at Pizza Hut,
Mm.
answering phones, which was it was a blast. I loved it. Between ages 16 and 17,
Okay.
and my parents called my brother and I into their bedroom, which was very unusual. Okay, sit down. We have some news for you. And I'm like, what is this? I had no idea what was about to happen. And they said, I don't even remember who it was. My mom or my dad said, oh, we're going to get a divorce. Immediately, my brother jumps in, I'm going to live with dad. And I'm like, what is happening here? It was just a complete shock to me. And then my parents, of course, are like, do you have any questions or anything? And you could tell it was really awkward for them because they're like, well, we just don't love each other anymore. And so we've decided to get a divorce. And then with my brother jumping in like that, it was like, okay, I don't know what just happened here. And when they asked, are there any questions? I'm like, no, because I don't even know what just happened. Because I'd been working at Pizza Hut, it'd become like a safe place for me.
Mhm.
And so I had a car, so I drove there and I had no idea what I was going to do there or anything. God just really orchestrated the whole thing because I sat in a booth and two of my closest friends just happened to be there. Like, did they come in often? No, like they weren't in there often and they just happened to be there. And so I just, of course, let out the whole thing and they were shocked because they're like, your parents are so normal. It was, yeah, God was really taking care of me at that moment, sending my friends at that particular time when I needed them. It was definitely a shock for me. But because my brother had spent more time with them, the
Mhm.
couple of years, like he kind of saw it coming. I guess there was more fighting and things that I had no idea was
Mhm.
happening. I don't know if they covered it up more when I was home or I was just completely oblivious
Mhm.
teenager.
Mhm.
So that's kind of my experience at
Mhm.
that point. And then after a couple of months, so then after they announced that, then there was a little more fighting and things that I noticed. My mom decided to move out, I felt guilty because I am closer to my dad than my mom. I was like, well, I can't stay with dad now because I don't want to leave mom by herself. She was being maybe a little bit manipulative too about saying like, oh, I don't, okay, no one wants to be with me. And so I decided to move with her. She did get an apartment like within the school district. It was my junior year. So we moved and then she didn't lose her job. She got, I don't know, like a pay cut. So then she could no longer afford that apartment going into my senior year. So she had to move into a really bad school district. And I was like, there's no way I'm changing schools my senior year of high
Mhm.
school. So then I moved back in with my dad and my brother into our house.
Okay, so a couple things, just if I can comment that
Uh-huh.
stand out to me, it's just that because I'm thinking about all the children of divorce I've talked to and some of the dynamics, of like really feeling like you have to take care of your mom or your dad, or really that feeling torn, right? Like your brother's already claimed your dad, who was really who you preferred for whatever reason, but now you feel you have to be with your mom because you don't want to leave her alone. I think that's really common that kids feel like we have to take care of or protect or help our
Right.
parents, when it's supposed to be the other way around. That's a lot of moves in a very short, a very few years at a really significant time in your life. That sounds really hard and probably was pretty stressful.
Yeah, it was. I was still working at Pizza Hut
Mhm.
during those years and just
Yeah.
like I had close friends there and the neighborhood
Mhm.
friends. So
Mhm.
they really helped to support me during that time.
I think it's also pretty common for children of divorce to go, well, yeah, you get on with it. It is what it is.
Mhm.
You got to move again. I feel like we just sort of um, take it take it on the chin or whatever that phrase is. So after you moved out with your mom, and then how often did you see your dad? Did you see your brother? What was that whole dynamic? And then after you moved back in with your dad, did you see your mom? Kind of, did you have an arrangement or what happened there?
Because we were older, we didn't have to have an arrangement.
Okay.
When I was with my mom, I just went to because I had a car.
Uh-huh.
So I was at my dad's house often because my friends were in the neighborhood
Right.
and stuff. So it was like living almost in two houses. When I moved back in with my dad, when my mom moved, I don't remember visiting her house very often. About 17, 18, so I didn't have to go and stay with her or
Mhm.
anything like that
Yeah.
because I was just busy. I mean, it was my senior
Mhm.
year of high school. I was
Yeah.
busy.
I think it is true. Just that often children of divorce, we have gaps in our memory about things. But also, I think a lot of teenagers, like you say, you just don't really think about spending time with your parents and different things. You're just with your friends, your work, your school, you can be really busy. So I'm curious about your parents, dating, remarriage. Did either of them have relationships moving on and so on? Tell me about kind of how their lives progressed after they got divorced.
I can't remember exactly when they started dating again. My mom, at some point, started dating this guy she was working with. Got pretty serious. I would talk to her on the phone. I'm like, how's it going? And she's like, oh, I just broke up with Roger again. So, and that was a struggle for her they were on and off dating for, I don't know, 10, 20 years. They never lived together and then not dating and dating again and back and forth. My dad, on the other hand, he got engaged to a woman. It was at least 5 years later. They were actually engaged, but they broke it off
Hmm.
after a year or so because just she was accusing my dad of choosing uh, me and my brother over her. And my dad's like, they're my kids. Yes,
Mhm.
I'm gonna take care of them. I'm gonna help them in whatever way I can. She had kids from earlier divorces too, and he's like, you do the same thing. And there's probably other things as well, but dated some other women after that.
Mhm.
And one other lady he lived with his high school sweetheart, a girl he'd always been in love with, but never
Okay.
actually like
Okay.
approached.
Yeah.
They met again at a high school reunion. So they would spend like 6 months in Arkansas and 6 months in Michigan and go back and forth. They did that for a while and then they again had problems and broke it off. It was always awkward for me. I was never thrilled to have my parents dating other people. I can see now how it's okay
Mm.
that they didn't get back together. it was kind of hard letting that go, but
Mhm.
now I see I'm like, okay, they are very different personalities and it's okay.
So your parents are both single, is that still true?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
In their 70s and single.
Moving on, question 4 here is about key memories before and after the breakup. I guess what I'm kind of looking for here is related to family and being together. Like, do you have memories of like the good times, either sad memories of being broken up or good memories after the breakup?
I would say Christmas. Christmases are the most memorable times with our family because we were always together. We always traveled to my dad's mom's house, my grandma's house, the weekend before Christmas.
Mhm.
And it seemed like every time, it probably didn't happen every time, but it felt like every time we came back, there was a snowstorm
Uh-huh.
and we'd be riding in the car together. Are we going to make it home before Santa comes? And things, like
Mm.
those moments in the car were really precious. Those are probably the moments I cherish the most, which is traveling together to grandma's house, or sometimes we'd take a Sunday drive as a family. Those were good memories.
Mhm.
After the divorce, I just remember it being awkward. That first Christmas, oh my goodness, was so hard. I was like, okay, how's this gonna go? Both of my parents, you could tell that they were really uncomfortable, and I really felt
Mhm.
uncomfortable. And the last time I was home for Christmas, 2020, during COVID, and we had Christmas together, and my brother and his wife came. It was so nice. Remember, my brother is a lot more vocal and able to share his feelings
Mhm.
openly with them. And he's like, Mom, Dad, I'm so thankful that you guys are able to come together to not make things awkward, that we can do this and not have to, separate
Yeah.
Christmas, that we could do this all together.
Mhm.
If my brother and I are both home now as adults, like
Mhm.
they don't seem to have any problems coming together.
Number 5 here, I think is always an interesting one. What do you know about why your parents broke up? And then the other question is, what did you know at the time? What did they say, or what was your understanding? And then maybe has that changed as you've got older? It was just that's what it was, and that was the truth, and there wasn't anything more. What are your thoughts about that?
When they sat us down and said they were getting a divorce, I remember them saying something about, oh, we just don't love each other
Yeah.
anymore. And I'm like, what does that mean? Come on. That's the only reason they gave us. Honestly, there's been moments where I've wanted to ask. I mean, it was how many years ago? But I
Mhm.
still feel awkward asking them, like, okay,
Mhm.
what really happened? I'm afraid that one of them will say, like, oh, I fell in love with somebody else or something, but I didn't see that. So I don't know. I didn't see any signs going
Mhm.
into it. My brother said he did just because he was at home more. But
You're just saying that even since then, you've never really figured out what it was. It's just kind of just a gradual loss
I
of
guess so. I
connection or
mean,
something.
their personalities are quite different. I don't know. Like
Mhm.
it's kind of strange. I'm like, you weren't willing to work it out. You weren't that committed. But then
Mhm.
again, like I should just ask, but I don't.
A really good idea for a video about like how do you ask your parents about that? Because I do think it's pretty common that a lot of us really don't know or we're not sure or we heard something from an auntie or we don't even know if it's true and then we're kind of like we're living with this kind of gaps in our memory but lack of information, And so we're just filling in the blanks with like yeah, maybe they had an affair, maybe this and that or even though we're adults we still don't want to ask our parents about it. It's funny. It's a funny thing. Hey, so let me know if you ever get around to it. I'm
I
curious.
know. I'm like, one of these days I will
Yeah,
ask.
yeah, yeah. So the sixth question here is about your relationship with your parents after the breakup. How did your relationship with your mom and then with your dad change over the years?
I think I've always been close with my dad. I don't think that relationship ever changed. Maybe at some points, we've gotten even closer. Just being more supportive of me. I feel like I blamed my mom for the divorce more than my dad because I'm closer to my dad. And I'm like, oh, I'm sure he couldn't have done anything wrong.
Right.
Through the years, I've kind of come like, okay, it's probably both of them. It wasn't just one or the other. My relationship with my mom has gotten better, but we've had our struggles for sure. We would go on vacations together. Well, my brother joined the Navy. He's at some different bases around the US. So my dad would say, oh, let's go visit your brother. He was stationed in Florida for a while. After my mom's mom passed away, my mom asked if I wanted to go with her to travel to her brother's houses to give them some things left, like from my grandma's estate. We traveled all over the US delivering things. We loved being together and we hated being together. There was always a moment when we were like, we're done talking to each other. This vacation is over. A lot of it for me had to do with she would bring up something about my dad. There was one vacation we had. It was such a great vacation. We had so much fun. Just visited with some of my friends. My brother and his wife met us part way and traveled with us part of the way. Got stuck in traffic like half an hour or an hour before we made it home. My mom brought up something about my dad, just something negative. I just told her, I like, please don't talk to me about my dad. I'm not the friend you want to talk to about that.
Mm.
So there was sometimes she would cross that line. I'm like, whoa, like, okay.
Mhm.
Like we could be friends and it was fine. But then if she started saying anything about my dad, I was like, no, we're done. And then I would kind of distance myself from her. It's
Mhm.
better now. She's part of, she's losing her memory
Okay.
a bit. So I don't know if it's dementia or whatever. We haven't decided, haven't figured it out. But things now, like I think we have a better relationship now
Okay.
because she's kind of forgotten things and she is kind of, I don't know, she's more positive and encouraging now than she ever was
Okay.
before.
Thanks for that. Number 7 here. How did you cope with the breakup? What was that like coping?
At the time of the breakup, it was working a lot, diving into schoolwork, just hanging out with friends. I think I stayed away from home even more after they announced the divorce because I didn't want to be at home. Like, I didn't want to deal with it. It was just too hard, and I had too many like unanswered questions. It was better to just take myself out of the situation. It could be why living overseas. And my brother is working in Japan right now. Neither of us are anywhere close to Michigan or our parents. I know my dad really doesn't like it. He's like, why are my kids so far away from me? It's quite possible that both of us just kind of needed to get away. When my brother got married, my brother and I never talked about the divorce together because we were both teenagers.
Mhm.
And I was kind of mad that he knew about it before I
Mhm.
did. He knew what
Mhm.
was going to happen.
Mhm.
Didn't talk. I don't know that we ever really talked about it. So when he got married, he said that he didn't want to get gold wedding rings because that's what mom and dad had and they got divorced
Mm.
with the type of ring. And I was like, what? Like, what does that
Yeah.
have to do with anything? That was the first time I realized that it had affected him. I wanted to never do anything that mom and dad did in case that's what led to the divorce,
Mhm.
which was really interesting to me. I didn't get married till in my mid 40s.
Mhm.
So I was definitely more cautious about who I was going to marry. Been dating or anything, it
Mhm.
was like, okay, can I marry this guy or not? If I can't, then we're just not, I'm not even gonna
Mhm.
date this guy. It could be that I was being picky. The divorce probably affected my
Mhm.
thinking about marriage and how my thought was if I'm getting married, I am committed till the end. I'm going to choose this person to be committed to for the rest of my life. There is no divorce.
I can definitely relate to kind of what you're saying about being quite guarded. And for myself, like being quite extreme in my thinking, like I would look at a guy and like, I kind of like you, but can I marry you? No. Yes. I recognize now it was very much self-protection and just really wanting to like make it clear, yes or no. I don't want there to be risk. I don't want to be vulnerable. And it's like what people would say, just go for a couple dates and see what happens. I'm like, what kind of crazy talk is that? Like, there's no way I'm gonna just date somebody and just see what happens. Like, what else kind of helped you throughout the years? Like you said, kind of staying busy, staying with your friends, focusing on other things, moving far away. Are there other things, either positive or negative, that you think kind of helped you to cope or that you turned to for support?
Know that I really had a relationship with the Lord when it happened. I think I was going to a church youth group at the time, but it wasn't really a relationship with the Lord. It was just kind of to go and hang out with people. A couple of years after that, it became a lot more real. Able to go to him and talk to him and hear his voice and to process all of that really made a difference.
Mm.
And that was really the thing.
Maybe just a couple more to look at. The one that I think that I'm always interested in is this question number 8. And I think it's good that we're a bit older because at the time I wouldn't have been able to kind of sort through how the divorce, the messages that I believed about myself or about other people or about God. Only looking back now, I can identify some of the things that I internalized as a result of the divorce. So the question here is, what are some of the messages you received about yourself, other people, or God as the result of the breakup?
I think one thing I'm remembering now that my parents said when they announced the divorce, it's not about you, it's about our relationship and
Mm,
how we don't love each other anymore. You do really think that though, as a
mm,
kid. It's like, but was it because of me? Was it because I wasn't home enough? Could I have done something to prevent this? It took me a few years to deal with that. There were a few years that I had to, battle through that. You could have done something more. They didn't love you enough to stay together.
right.
One of the messages, and it's,
Mm,
of course, later on, I'm like, oh, that's ridiculous. No. A lot of negative thoughts that come through
mm,
your mind when you're trying to like process it, especially, as a kid or a teenager, friends to talk to.
mhm,
And I had one friend whose parents had divorced when she was younger. And whenever I really had a problem, there were a few times I went to her and just said, oh, like, what happened? Like, how did you deal with this or that?
Cool. That's nice to have that kind of somebody in your life that you felt safe with that you could actually go to for advice who had a little bit more experience than you. A lot of children of divorce, maybe I'll speak for myself, or like, I can't trust people. I'm going to be rejected. I don't want to take it. I don't want to kind of be dependent on people or like some of those kind of, I'm not as good enough as somebody else, or now there's something wrong with me. So I had all kinds of things like that have floated through my mind at different points in my life. I wonder if any of those relate to you.
Like looking to date guys and
Mm,
thinking about the commitment issue.
okay.
When I was going into a relationship, I'm fully committed and this be long term. I'm already 10 steps ahead.
Uh-huh.
Saying, okay, is this guy going to be equally committed to me as
Mm,
I am to him? I don't know if the trust issue was as much
okay.
of a deal for me. And the independence, I think I already had that.
Mm,
Like when my parents were getting into other relationships,
mhm,
it was a little bit tricky
mhm,
in how I could talk with my parents. Again,
mhm,
'cause they're like, okay, now they have this other person in their lives.
mhm.
They still do the same things for me that they were doing before. There were some advantages too. When he had a girlfriend, they were a lot more thoughtful on the presents he would
Sure.
send. Oh, I got these nice new pajamas. Dad, thanks. And he's like, well, she
Yeah.
picked these out.
Well, thank you for that. The last question here is about, what do you wish you would have known or what could have helped you? So maybe this is sort of like the place where you could, if you have any great wisdom to others, right? Because we all know people who are divorced. We've all got people in our families, our circles. Often when people get divorced, what I notice is that we're all kind of like, oh, how do we support them and how do we help the kids? And most of the time, I feel like people are kind of like, let's just kind of not make it a big deal. And I feel like we miss out on a lot of opportunities. So I'm kind of giving you my own answer here, but I'm curious your perspective. Do you think could have helped you or what, yeah, what advice would you have to kind of together there?
At the time, it would have been really good to see a counselor, to have someone to talk me through all of that. I mean, I had my friends,
Sure.
but they were giving their own like,
Yes.
oh, I can't believe they did this and stuff. I'm like, yeah, like all the
Yeah.
emotions come out in
Uh-huh.
girls.
Uh-huh.
It'd have been nice to have an adult kind of like helping me to deal with my
Mhm.
emotions and
Mhm.
helping me to actually talk with my parents
Okay. Yeah.
instead of then like feeling like I was just isolating myself even more from
Mm.
them.
Mhm.
That would have been the most helpful at the time. I know I've really appreciated like talking to other people or even like the book that you wrote.
Mhm.
That was really helpful for
Mhm.
me to read that. And I was
Okay.
like,
Yeah.
oh, there were, some truths in there that I was surprised to
Uh-huh.
see and realize that I had felt the same way. Those kinds of things were really good.
Mhm.
So many people have gotten divorced. It's a real problem
Mm.
here where I'm living. And I just see so many kids being separated from mostly from their dads. Their dads don't want to see them anymore. Or in my husband's case, like he's divorced and he has a
Mhm.
daughter, and his ex-wife won't really let him see his daughter. We need both of our parents.
Yeah.
We need a relationship with them. That would be the biggest advice I would give, or I
Mhm.
wish I would have been better at, is to try to have a good relationship with both parents. I mean,
Mhm.
it's hard, but to try to not blame one parent or the other for the
Mm.
divorce, or not take on some kind of responsibility for them,
Mhm.
love them, and still be their child.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you, Angie. I hear what you're saying about the being separated from your parents and that you need both parents. And I also think both extended families. I do see that a lot where sort of one parent gets custody and then the other parent, usually the dad, but sort of either fades away or gets pushed away. And then same with the aunties and the uncles and the grandparents and the cousins. And then you grow up feeling like you don't really have any people. Like, who are your people that celebrate you, that know you, that believe in you, that are tracking with you? That was definitely the case in my family, that we sort of lost track with all the aunts and uncles and cousins for years and decades. And it wasn't until I was much older that I had one auntie in particular who kind of just like reinserted herself into my life and always went out of her way when I was home visiting to take me out for coffee, take me for breakfast, check in with me. And I thought, oh, if I'd had this my whole life, I my life would have been might have been very different because
Yeah.
for many of those years right after the divorce and for probably the next 15 years, it's just like me and my dad and my brother. And in hindsight, how much of that family support and connection that I lacked. It was really sad. It seems to me people think, well, just kind of don't make a big deal and just they're fine and we don't want to bother them and just keep get them be in their routine and don't. But I think it's not that simple. Any final thoughts, Angie, even as you've been talking and kind of sharing your story? Is there anything that stood out to you?
Just looking back, thinking about it, it was, it's been over 30 years now since it happened. And just trying to think of my emotions and things at the time, so much has changed, and how the Lord has changed my heart and my thoughts, my feelings towards what happened and towards my parents. I feel like I've grown and matured so much since then, it's good to look back and to realize how far you've come.
Yeah.
I feel like divorce is a traumatic event for a
Mhm.
kid.
Mhm. Part of even making these videos is that people will feel like they're less alone and also that there's some hope. So maybe somebody's watching this whose parents got divorced last week or last month or a year ago, and they're thinking, will I ever get to the point that I could have holidays with both of my parents or that I could go, okay, I'm married now. And yeah, it was really painful and it was really sad and I missed a lot, but it hasn't set the entire course of my life. It hasn't ruined everything. And there's more to the story. And I really appreciate comments about God being involved and healing and working through it because I think that's also really helpful message to hear and a hopeful message that it's not the complete end of the story. So thank you for that, Angie. Really appreciate it. So if you are watching this and you're an adult child of divorce, please subscribe to this channel. There's more videos about this and other topics. You can also check out the novel that I wrote that Angie referred to called Come Home Laughing. So there'll be a link in the comments. And yeah, until next time. Bye.